Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So, there's been sort of a long hiatus, and I deeply apologize for that. But as we all know, life has a way of sort of doing what it wants, and not taking into account anything else. So without too much of that kind of stuff kind of bleeding over, what I wanted to do today is I wanted to continue in my my informatives on Celtic paganism. Something that comes up a lot in Celtic paganism, it comes up a lot just being pagan. Something that comes up a lot is the gods and goddesses. And a lot of people, both pagan and monotheist, are very interested in the Celtic gods and goddesses because I would say, as far as paganism goes, Celtic paganism isn't necessarily the most mainstream, at least not here where I'm living. And I suppose that Marvel has helped sort of with the idea of Norse paganism. Most people, even non-pagans, are familiar with many of the Viking gods. The Norse gods. They're familiar with Odin and Loki and Thor. If they've read the comics, they're familiar with Heimdall and maybe Sig or Frey or Freya, Frigga, but they may not necessarily be familiar with the stories that come from Norse paganism. Well, Celtic paganism doesn't really have that. A lot of what we have from Celtic paganism is stories that stayed alive and then sort of got Christianized over time. Because the stories wouldn't go away, and so they just changed the stories and how they were told to sort of fit the audience that was there. But I would be willing to bet that many figures from Celtic mythology you are decently familiar with, even if you don't know that they come from Celtic mythology. Figures such as Merlin or King Arthur both come from Celtic mythology. So what I want to talk about today is the gods and goddesses of the Celts. So I'd like to talk a little bit about druidic gods. And I want to start that by talking about a goddess named Carolyn. Carolyn is pretty easy to come into in any sort of pagan thought, as she is sort of an inspirational goddess figure for the Wiccan triple goddess. Carolyn has the mother form, the maiden form, and the crone form. So she inherently has that triplicity that they sought out in Wicca to create their triple goddess. She is a lunar goddess. She is a goddess of love and mothering, as well as a goddess of the destructive forces of nature, storm bringing and animal transformation and all those manner of things. So she's one who's got a little bit more bleed over into some of the other pagan pantheons. Another one who is decently common as far as Celtic deities go is the Morrigan, or the Morrigan. Now the Morrigan is three sisters who are named Macha, Niwain, or Newan, and Bav. And those three sisters make up this single goddess who is the Morrigan, or the Phantom Queen. And she has a lot of importance as far as like, cosmic mythology, being that the Morrigan foresees the death of the old gods and the rising of the new gods. She also possesses a sort of maiden mother crone feel to her. And it's difficult to tell whether or not that was attributed to her later, after the idea of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, because some of her early stories talk about her as the three sisters. So it's difficult there, but she does have the same triplistic feel that Carolyn possesses. Some other names in the Celtic pantheon that are a little less well known. You have the Dagda, or the father god, and I love the Dagda. He represents, along with Lu, he represents sort of the divine masculine. If Carolyn or the Morrigan represents the divine feminine, then the Dagda or Lu represent the divine masculine. Lu is sometimes called the Green Man. He is extremely important around the time of the harvest. Alternatively, the Dagda, in one of my favorite depictions of him, carries around with him a great club, which is so enormous that it requires a cart of its own. And so the Dagda just carries this monstrous weapon around with him where he needs. And just the idea of a powerful masculine deity wielding a weapon so great that it requires its own method of being carried, to me, it's very powerful imagery to me. But you have the Dagda and Lu. Of course, you have the children of Lear, or Lear himself, who come from the Welsh side of the pantheon. And of course, one of the most quintessential sort of family of deities comes from Irish mythology, the Tuatha Dé Danann, which is the children of Danu. The gods and goddesses of Ireland, for the most part, are all Tuatha. They are all the children of Danu. And that is very interesting to me, that they all possess familiality, I suppose. They're all a family, and their cohesion. Because in a lot of the Irish myths, it is the Tuatha and the people of Ireland defending Ireland from outside invasion, from incursion. And so that imagery to me is also very powerful. But as far as some names for the Tuatha, of course, the Morrigan is one of the Tuatha. The Dagda and Lu are also members of the Tuatha. Many of the gods and goddesses of Ireland are land gods or land goddesses. They're place gods. And that was pretty common practice at that point, for places to be of such spiritual importance that they had a goddess or a god who was in charge of that particular place. The Stone of Destiny at the Hill of Tara is one such place that was so spiritually important that it was thought that the spirit of the goddess Ire lived there, and that when you were chosen to be the High King, at the Hill of Tara, you were marrying Ireland. You were marrying Ireland's goddess there. So that's some interesting bits and pieces. A little bit of story, a little bit of kind of jumping back and forth between different deities, but that gets some names out there. Something that I feel is that paganism is very experiential. You should experience paganism more than you should simply follow it. And so I wanted to leave you all with some names that you could look up and experience on your own. So there you have it, today's video. I will do better about my next video happening a little sooner. But for now, I want to leave you all with that. And blessings of the forest to you all. I will see you all next time.